to the Exist Better YouTube channel. Today, I'm doing what I said I was going to do, and we're going to go over the liberal shadow in more detail. So, I was getting tripped up on doing this because I realized I was trying to fit every possible thing I could say in one video, and that's kind of ridiculous. And I also didn't do that for the conservative shadow in the last video. I just picked out a few things that I was thinking at the time. So I'm gonna be I'm not gonna try to structure this too much. I'm just gonna talk about what I think are some of the main points. If you haven't watched any of these videos yet, feel free to check out my political playlist where I talk a little bit about the conservative and liberal shadows to give you sort of an introduction. Also, I'm going to do, the next video I'm going to do after this is going to be about embodiment of feminine and masculine qualities or characteristics. How is that practically done? And it's not this thing about just coming into a perfect balance and being this perfectly balanced person, which is not really a thing. So I'm going to talk about in the next video how we do that on an individual level so that we don't end up in these situations where we are members of cults or members of groups with incredibly specific ideologies that block out all the rest of reality. Also, just about thriving as an individual in your day-to-day life. You can't really do that without developing yourself in both of these capacities, both feminine and masculine. If you're not developed at all really in one or the other, you're going to have a lot of consequences in your life. There's going to be a lot of disempowerment. And so in this video, so that's the next video, we're going to do that. I'll also talk a little bit about in the next video how that has played out for me and what it looked like when I was not at all developed in a particular way. So the first thing I think is worth mentioning about the liberal shadow that no one really talks about is sarcasm. You'll notice in conservative culture that there's not that much use of sarcasm, and there's a reason for that. So when I browse the profiles of random people on the internet who appear to be liberal, and I've been doing this research just involuntarily for years now. So there's a very strong trend here. Everyone who seems liberal, and sometimes you can even see them posting political stuff so you know they're liberal, they are always speaking with so much sarcasm. And it's the further left they go, the more the sarcasm increases. Why is that? Sarcasm is an intellectual way of covering over pain. So when you're being sarcastic, you're probably not aware that it's about your own emotional pain, but it is. So one thing I noticed when I looked back on my own posts from when I was much younger and not very well-rounded yet, is every single thing I would post was such a performance and so over-the-top sarcasm and satire, and to the point where it wasn't even really funny. It was just completely a false persona. Now when I look at liberal accounts, I see that not all, but a lot of their posts are doing the same exact thing. It's not even that they're expressing personalities, it's like a little cult of sarcasm. So they have this well of unexpressed emotional pain that they're just slathering sarcasm over. Second thing, there's this concept in the nonprofit world of hand ups versus hand downs. So when you're helping people get out of difficult situations, it's really important to make sure that you are not, that you are actually empowering them with the help that you're giving, because it's very possible to give people a bunch of stuff but it actually disempowers them in some circumstances. So there's this big liberal idea around if anyone has been a victim of anything, they are only seen through the lens of that victimhood, and they are not seen as a whole person. When you're helping someone, you don't just rally around their victimhood and keep emphasizing it further and further and further and further. This can actually backfire really hardcore and create this extreme dependency in the person who has been victimized. You can't simply run a society by highlighting everyone's victimhood and then giving them a bunch of approval and validation and attention just for that.
Welcome to Portland's Allergy Pride Parade.
We are here to celebrate Allergy Pride.
Lactose intolerance, so allergy to dairy. I would like to see a day maybe 20 years from now when an allergy sufferer will be sitting in the White House. Maybe 20 years from now, 30 years, who knows? And here we have soy punks. These people are allergic to soy.
What are they yelling?
Oi, not soy.
Liberals don't care about other people unless they are perceived as victims, unless they believe that person is a victim. And I'm going to give you a really awful example.
I saw true hate coming from the left, and it was white people calling me Uncle Tom. Pretty much, white people tell me I'm not black enough.
Aunts won't speak to me. Even now, I got aunts that don't talk to me because I want to be white.
The people that call me the nastiest, all kinds of like, oh, house Uncle Tom, like all this stuff.
I've been called a bed wench.
That's how racist the left still is.
Liberals can abandon their entire ideology when it suits them. So this is taking us into our next point, which is hypocrisy.
Are you pro-life or pro-choice?
I'm pro-choice. I think women have the right to decide what they want to do with their bodies.
Pro-choice.
I'm pro-choice.
The truth is that no one is in your body but you.
So then when we're talking about vaccine mandates, government vaccine mandates, are you for or against them?
I'm for it. I'm vaccinated.
I would say that I guess I am more for a mandate.
I am for them. Yeah.
I would be okay with the vaccine mandate.
Then what happened to the my body, my choice argument in that circumstance?
I feel like that's regarding, well, I guess,
It showcases how liberals are not actually dealing with bias. They're always talking about how they're working to become less racist and they're working to become less sexist, but when you watch their behavior, you notice that they are becoming more racist. They are becoming more sexist. So there's a big theme in liberal culture, obviously, that is playing out. That's basically like Animal Farm is happening. It's like, let's overthrow the oppressors so that we can become the oppressors. Much like we talked about with the conservative shadow, there's no actual development taking place here. This is where it gets a little bit hilarious. So again, we're talking from this masculine, feminine perspective, right? If you zoomed out, these are the two forces that we see at play here with liberals and conservatives. So when we're talking about liberals, we're talking about the weaknesses of the feminine. What is the notorious weakness of the feminine? Over-emotionality and lack of objectivity. There's emotional reactivity, there's resentment, there's victimhood to the extreme, there's manipulation.
We don't want to know the gender of the baby. We don't want to know the sex, and you know that.
I don't know your gender. I don't know Candace's. I don't know mine.
You don't know my gender?
I don't.
Do I look like a woman?
I don't know what a woman looks like.
Do you?
I just feel like I'm good at recognizing a woman when I see one.
What are you? You're a detective? A gender detective?
No, I just...
Lifting up skirts and pulling down pants and just getting in there with your magnifying glass?
I've never done that.
I didn't even consider your gender.
I know, you still don't.
That's your father talking. That is your disgusting father.
What liberals do is they have their beliefs, they have their values, they have their emotions, and their identities are completely attached to those things. A lot of liberals are still very smart in their own way, right? Even if they're struggling with this objectivity. So they will find logical information that serves their emotions, their beliefs, and their values. They will look for any excuse to find a research study, to find anything logical, any expert that agrees with their perspective already. They will grab that, even if it's the most obscure thing in the world. They will take that and say, look, see, it's true. Even if the research is like faulty, even if there's like corporate interests that have made the study kind of like questionable or invalid. So I'm going to show you some clips of liberals being unable to engage in debate because they're too offended. And again, it's because they've attached their identity to their beliefs, values, and emotions, and they don't understand that when someone questions their ideas or asks for proof that their ideas are correct, they don't understand that that's not really supposed to be a personal fight or a personal attack. It's supposed to be a debate of the mind.
One of the drugs used is Lupron, right? Which has actually been used to chemically castrate sex offenders?
You know what? I'm not sure that we should continue with this interview because it seems like it's going in a particular direction.
Well, you're a medical professional.
I am a medical professional.
So you don't want to talk about the drugs that you give to kids, or?
Again, I'm a physician and I use medication. You're choosing exploitive words. Drugs I give to kids.
I'm choosing a
chemical
word that was in a dictionary.
That's not a correct term for puberty blocking in a kid.
You can't say, like, me and my group are going to restructure society around this ideal and this ideal and this ideal, but how are you doing that? Let's say I'm an average liberal, right? Going about my day. I'm doing all these activism things because I want to bring more of these feminine values, which I'll show here. I want to bring more of these feminine values into the Western world because they don't exist here, and they should and they need to if we are to have a healthy future as a culture. That's correct. So liberals are correct in the foundation. When they go ahead and try to implement these things, every single thing they end up doing could actually be described as toxic masculinity. They're fighting. They're becoming extremely rigid. They're rejecting people who are not like them. They're attempting to control other people's thoughts and feelings and behaviors. The irony here is that cancel culture is toxic masculinity. They're killing their own movement with their own energy. That, to me, like I said, is just the saddest thing I can think of. That we had a shot of developing a more feminine world where feminine principles are allowed to exist in tandem with masculine instead of just masculine, which is kind of how a lot of the Western world works. But instead of bringing that in, liberals have instead gotten very, very confused. The feminine isn't in shadow for liberals, right? Like the masculine is. So all that stuff, they don't know they're doing it. They don't know that they're being the oppressors. They're being the fascists that they hate. I would love to see the entire liberal movement rise into real feminine expression, to deal with all that rage and anger, which I think is legitimate in a lot of ways, but they need to stop projecting it and hurling it at people, start to take responsibility, start to work in a more objective way, seeing the world more objectively, seeing themselves more objectively, detaching their identity from their beliefs, their values, their emotions a little bit to get a little bit of perspective and see, like, what does it actually look like to lead this feminine movement? So like I said, in the next video, I'll be talking about this same exact topic, but instead of from a societal perspective, we'll be doing an individual perspective. So how you as an individual can integrate this in your own life, not in regards to politics, but just in regards to everyday situations in your life. So if you like this video, you want to hear more about shadow work, society, cultural critique, subscribe. If you are interested in shadow work sessions or the shadow workbook, check out the links below, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.